Hey everybody, it's me again. If you just finished watching lecture 2, you realize that I got cut off at the end of that lecture. So you're getting a third recording from me. The internet went out in the last one. At least I got through the majority of the lecture, but there was just a few more things that I wanted to share with you. So here I am. And I wanted to take a minute to finish up what we talked about this last time. And that was, we were talking about this idea of empathy, right? And again, what I described as empathy and the barriers to empathy can keep us from attending to our students who are meaning making and need us to show up in particular ways to truly help them. And so the art of teaching is not only coming with all the great things that we want to share with them, but to help them make that connection with the new knowledge that they're getting from you and also the existing knowledge that they have. So as we think about this, hopefully we can lean in a little bit more and attend to our students in the best way that we can. It leads us to think about the sort of the shift from teacher-centered to learner-centered teaching. I'm not going to run through this list. I'm not saying that teaching is bad. Teacher-centered teaching is bad and learner-centered teaching is good. I think that there can be some value in the way that we hold this, but I do think there is something about sort of turning our scope away from ourselves onto the student that makes us think about the ways that we engage, the ways that we teach, the ways that we grade, the ways that we approach and sort of think about the teaching and learning environment differently. And this can affect the way that we even ask questions of ourselves, right? So just a couple of examples, like if I'm thinking that part of my teaching is for me to just get them to know the answer, that could be a first step. But I think what might be more important as we think about learner-centered teaching and learning is, well, what questions are emerging for them as they engage the material? Another one might be in church circles, we might say, well, can a young person give their testimony? Well, that would be a fair place to start. But maybe a deeper question is, can they translate their faith to their context outside the four walls of a classroom or a church, right? So we begin to see that there's more that's going on there that we want to pay attention to. Later on, I mean, can we think about this idea that perhaps there are times in a teacher-centered environment where the environment may be competitive or individualistic or controlling rather than collaborative or communal or liberating? How am I fostering an environment that evokes and encourages the agency of the learner, for them to take hold of their responsibility to learn and continue to grow as students? In the end, I just want to point you to the last one, is that I think a lot of times in classroom settings where already students feel like it's high risk, remember we talked about that before, there can be actually a culture of fear. And I remind my students quite often that when we're afraid, we really can't learn. When I'm afraid, I pull punches. When I'm afraid, I won't offer an answer for fear of being rejected. When I'm afraid, I play it safe. When I'm afraid, I kind of do whatever I can to avoid any sort of injury to make it through and just sort of survive in the moment, compared to an environment of love, where in an environment of love, I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to be generous toward another as they're generous toward me. In a context of love, failure is okay. In the context of love, we can disagree with each other because we know that something holds us together that's deeper than that. You see the difference? I really believe, whether it's true or not, I think it is the teacher can use their power to begin to foster the type of environment that is conducive for learning. And this is the work that is required of us as we step into spaces where we teach, where we share our knowledge, the way we think about our research and everything else. And so, play with this list, think about it, make your own. Perhaps it's something there that can be really, really helpful to you. Really practically, just some things to think about. And we're going to explore some of these the rest of the quarter. What does a learner-centered approach look like with the syllabus? Is one article you'll read. A lot of times the syllabus can feel like we're yelling at the student, right? Here's the list of things, and if you don't do them, you're in trouble. Rather than thinking of the syllabus as like a musical score where we're singing together and we're creating harmonies for something that's bigger than ourselves. I'm not even sure office hours exist anymore. in an online world, right? So, I talked about a little bit about this idea of day school and night school. What does our availability look like to our students? What are we communicating to them? Whether we're within or online or in class with them and outside that can make a huge difference. What do assignments look like? Is there room for them to bring themselves, to choose some different ways to go? What sort of control or agency are we giving them as they think about that? What about grading? Can we think about grading in such a way where we're nurturing their voices rather than it being punitive, right? So a lot of times what I'll write in some of the papers that I give feedback to students to is, hey, in order to make your voice a little bit clearer and maybe just a little bit stronger in what you're talking about, consider these things. You see the posture? It's like I'm coming alongside the student to say, hey, let's sort of figure this out together, because I really believe that your voice can really come through with what you're thinking here, versus you did this wrong and you did this wrong and you got points taken off. Do you see the difference? So our grading can communicate something. How do we create a classroom that's safe and filled with possibilities, and at the same time recognizing its limitations, as we talked about with day school and night school? Can we check in with our students? Can we give feedback that's not just formalized, but can be all types of feedback along the way? A lot of times I think just this idea of safety is really important, right? Like the ways that we invite students to have sort of low stakes and high stakes assignments. Low stakes assignments gives everybody a chance to sort of check in, to try with less risk. A lot of times we're figuring each other out. You kind of wonder what the professor is going to be like, or how they're going to grade, or how they're going to respond. And so low stakes sort of opportunities give opportunity to for students to and teachers to get to know each other, so that when the higher stake assignments comes later, there's more confidence and there's more familiarity and less fear associated with their learning. And then just something that I do personally that I want to share with you is just I try to do a lot of personal journeying. We all have different ways that we sort of make meaning, ways that we sort of process our lives. But I find that with personal journaling that when it comes to my teaching and learning, I love to spend time reflecting on experiences that I've had, to sort of process the encounter in my mind. Like, what did I think went well? Where wasn't I clear? How did I feel about that question that student raised? What happened between those two students as they had differing opinions? How did I handle that? These are ways that I can grow as a teacher as I process my own space in the room and my own reaction to the different conversations that are having. So we all come at it as different ways, but for me, I found that is incredibly helpful. So, with all these things in mind, there's a lot to think about. But I don't think we have the luxury as academics to simply get really good at our craft and be really smart and then hopefully disseminate information. There is perhaps a challenge that is placed upon all of us, whether we like it or not, of a responsibility that we have for the students that are under our care. And the instincts and disciplines that we developed to attend to students in helpful ways as they navigate the class, as we recognize our responsibilities and also our limitations, I think can help us to be better students. And I truly believe that that students replicate perhaps less of just the data that they learn in class, but I really believe that if students have a good experience in the class, they typically try to replicate that in their own teaching. So maybe we're doing something quite redemptive. Perhaps as we grow in our skills in teaching and learning, we are giving and providing the opportunity for great experiences for our students that they take and we try to replicate in their spheres of influence as well. And to me, that's pretty exciting. So we made it. I made it through this last part without any internet trouble. Thanks again for your patience with that. Again, it was great to see so many of you today. And I hope you find these lectures helpful. Until we connect again, grace, peace.